So I'm gonna have to figure out how to make the wall behind me.
Gotcha.
But hopefully one of these weeks I won't just be whatever we've all grown used to. Um, Nothing sexy, but
It's always sexy over there, man.
I know it, man. I can't help it. I don't normally wear pants.
They can get used to it. Maybe we can get used to it. Maybe I can get used to it. As long as I don't become a surfer guy. Long as I don't become. Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we are on a quest for Dynasty Domination. How's it going over there, Daniel?
Good. It's going good. It's Friday, which brings like a whole different podcast energy. Normally we're
Okay.
like a Wednesday, Thursday people. So we're bleeding into some of that weekend enthusiasm on my side
Mm-hmm.
of things. You doing good, man? I know, are you feeling all right these days, Christian?
Yeah, we had to pivot recording yesterday because I either didn't know the strength of the medicine I was on or overtook it on accident and ended up passing out. It was pretty crazy. Felt drunk, had to leave the restaurant I was at with my parents.
Oh,
It
damn.
was wild. It was a hard text. It took me like f 5 minutes to send you that text. So
Whoa. How many
I
Daniels am I holding up right now?
right now one. Yesterday, that's I wouldn't have known. I would have slept through the time, but I know.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was crazy. I know because of the pivot, we don't have as much time. So let's go ahead and crack into this. If you were with us last week, you heard us go through the NFC quarterback situation and rank them 16 to 1 in terms of how we like them for fantasy. We're going to do that for the NFC this week. Or sorry, flip that. Did it for the NFC, doing it for the AFC. So without further ado, I think we probably have the same one
Oh,
uh,
man.
for 16. Oh, maybe not. Maybe
I
not
don't know. I
anymore.
promised myself I wasn't going to go hip shot this week after that whole Brock Purdy
The
thing,
Brock
but
Purdy situation was crazy, but it's all right.
um this one's tough. I think there's like a three-way tie at the bottom for me.
Okay.
I tier these guys out, and the bottom of tier three was pretty rough. But I got Gino as number
Mm,
16.
okay.
But I think that was pre-research. I think right now I've got whoever the Raiders quarterback is 16.
So I followed the same logic as last week, where if it's a situation where I didn't think you were gonna have one player throughout the whole season, they
Yeah,
automatically went to the bottom.
that's a good call.
So that put me with two at the bottom. I did have the
Okay.
Raiders at 15, but
Okay.
I'll let you talk about the Raiders first, and then we'll get into mine.
Okay, yeah. So for me, the Raiders situation is the weapons, right? The weapons
Yeah.
don't impress. Um, it's easy to be excited about Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers, but this is like a future timeline type
Hmm.
situation. They did a lot for the interior offensive line, which is going to make things better. But it's like investment. You got turnover of the coaching staff as well as drafted a number one rookie in Mendoza, and then you bring in Kirk Cousins, who there's not it's not a turnkey operation there,
Hmm.
right? Like a building block has been added, but the rest of the scaffolding is still being put in place as far as like wide receiver options and implementation of a new offense. And so
Hmm.
for all those reasons, it makes me feel like it's more of a future investment here, and we're strictly kind of focusing on this year with
Yeah.
this exercise. So
Hmm.
that makes it something that's way too risky. Like if Kirk Cousins hits, oh shoot, man, like that's exciting, but it's not sustainable. And either way, like these guys aren't really people you're trusting as starters, and they're kind of see what happens bottom of the barrel for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. There were small reasons I put them ahead of my 16 team, but I hear everything you're saying. I mean, the Raiders last year ranked 32nd in terms of PFF's offensive line grades. They allowed 47 sacks, which was like 12 or 13 more than the next team. And that's not going to be good for Kirk or Mendoza coming in. Obviously, you mentioned it. They did improve the interior of that line. They bring in Tyler Linderbaum at a ridiculous contract. Bring in Spencer Buford over from San Francisco. The biggest move, though, on the offensive line is getting Colton Miller back from injury because he was awesome last year before he got hurt. So
Right.
that I think helps a lot. But you're right. Like the weapons are just bad. I would have loved to see the Raiders pair Mendoza with a young receiver in his draft class. They're obviously going to do that. Um, Probably next year, but they didn't do it outside of Malik Benson. So your core of Jack Besh, Trey Tucker, Jalen Naylor, and Donta Thornton, not super ideal. Brock Bowers is going to be a huge help, especially because he should be healthy this year. But if he goes down, that's tough. And then Genty can help out of the backfield. But I like the line. I like that they're probably not going to try to do too much on the offensive side of the ball. And I like Clint Kubiak coming in.
Well,
Um,
what did he do for Darnold though for fantasy owners, right?
I mean, that's fair, but I guess that's why they're 15 and not
Right.
like 8,
Sure enough.
I don't believe in
Compared to
them fully.
the
Yeah.
other option at the bottom. Okay.
So
I'm with you.
yeah, for me, my 16 was the Browns.
Hmm.
Their myriad of three guys that I think would not it would not surprise me if we saw everyone on that roster except Taylon Green. So if Dylan Gabriel came in for a week, Deshaun Watson came in, Shadir Sanders, I feel like it is more likely than not. I do think they have built a great core on the flip to the Raiders. Like they come in and they had the 31st ranked offensive line. The only person they're bringing back is Tevin Jenkins. Spencer Fano was highly regarded as like an excellent pick in the first round. We'll see how that works out. And then they bring in Zion Johnson, Titus Howard, and Elton Jenkins.
Yeah.
I love Elton Jenkins, big G on the helmet, but he hasn't really been healthy in a few years, and he hasn't been as nearly as good as he used to be. If he can get back to that point, I think it will be absolutely a huge upgrade. It probably still is, regardless, even if he plays like he did last year. And then, yeah, they got Quentin Jodkins paired with Dylan Sampson coming out of the backfield, and then they rebuilt their entire wide receiver room as well with Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston, and then you got Harold Fannin. Jerry Jeudy as a third is okay. That's nice. But to me, they're still building this for whoever comes in 2027. So Watson's injury history is huge,
Hmm.
obviously. Like we can't trust the guy. If he comes in and looks good and plays well, then he could jump up to the mid of the AFC quarterback situations. But I just don't think he'll have a very long leash with especially with how much Shadur Sanders has like clout around him. The moment Watson, obviously if he gets hurt, but the moment he starts performing poorly, I feel like they're gonna pull the trigger. Um, because why not? Like, let's see what we have. I don't think the plan is Watson going forward. The plan's not Shadur going forward. It's certainly not Dylan Gabriel going forward. They took his number away for the Jared Verse trade.
Yes.
So I
Oh,
just
yeah.
it's just a huge question mark to me, and even the weapons, as much as I like them, they are young. Like we haven't seen them yet. So there is some like up and downness to this that I just don't trust. I trust this low end solid consistency of potentially a cousin and the Fernando than the high variance of this room, and just in my opinion. And also don't love the quarterback or the coach they brought in, who is Todd
Todd
Monken.
Monken.
I
Yeah.
think it could work, maybe, but I don't know.
I don't think it was anybody's first choice in Munkin, but
Hmm.
I do think that so he brings in for the OC, he's got Travis Switzer,
Hmm.
the running back, the run game coordinator from the Ravens. And one thing that excites me about this team is the run game with
Yeah.
the Judkins duo with Sampson.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, you're telling me like obviously they overhauled the line. They add great weapons in the draft. If
Hmm.
Fanning's going, like everything you said, I agree with. And then you get to Watson and
Hmm.
you just don't know. But if Watson is healthy and gets a starting job, or if Shadur has like developed in the offseason, I feel like if one of these players is either healthy or improve, like if Shador can step up to the plate or if Watson can stay healthy, I don't think either of those players is finishing, 15th in the AFC. I think that there's huge upside, especially for Watson, if they can balance a rushing attack and really go through that, which Monken is a fan of.
Hmm.
Rushing quarterbacks, we've seen it work out really well for him. So if they can support all that, a 30-year-old Watson, it feels weird that he's still that young.
Hmm.
But if he can be healthy and be on the field and overcome his weird last 5 years of chaos,
Yeah.
I think that he's serviceable. I have the Browns, I have Watson as 12 on my
Okay.
list.
Damn. Okay. Yeah.
But that's assuming health, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And for me, it just doesn't pass the sniff test or the I just don't buy that after last seeing him in 2024, he's going to come in and be able to just be awesome.
Mhm.
Even he might be passable, but I mean, even Shadur Sanders was only averaging like just under 12 points for the games he started last year. Granted, terrible team, so it is it is a massive upgrade that way. But I don't know. I just don't buy it. I could see it. Like I think he's Watson is a very inexpensive lottery ticket this year because it
Oh
wouldn't
yeah.
surprise me if he ended up being middle of the pack with the core they built around him. I just think for me, I'm not going for it. You know what I mean?
For sure. And the division does have the opportunity in some regards. So
Yeah.
we'll just see what happens. But yeah, it's hard in June to be like, well, we know who the starter is and we know what the plan is, but like we have
Yeah,
no clue at all. And we haven't for years with this team, and it's just been kind of floundering and hasn't done anything concrete to let us know there's any hope for this year at all. So
for sure. So who you got at 15?
15. Oh, the questions are flying at me from all over the room. Okay, so I guess I have the Jets
Okay.
at 15, um, which I don't really love that. Honestly, I think they're going
Hmm.
to do better than I'm expecting them to do.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a history thing with them, not being able
Fair.
to get the passing game going. And then like Aaron Glenn, they went all in kind of on the defense this
Hmm.
offseason. Obviously, you add Omar Cooper, and that's huge. That's a huge upswing for them. But otherwise, it's mostly unchanged. I don't see Gino as like the guy who's going to get you in the playoffs or anything. But I also see him as a guy who's going to kind of probably rally this team and put a little grit to this offense that we've been missing these past few years. It's weird to me because I don't picture him as the kind of guy that's going to lead your team to like, the number one overall draft pick. But he
Hmm.
literally just did that with Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but if you can get Cooper and Wilson going, obviously Brees Hall is a menace,
Hmm.
and Gino has shown like obvious serviceable upside. I think that he could really activate and be competitive in a way that is comfortable for him if the defense takes the steps that they're intending it to. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my thing. Like I have him as 15, but like. I don't know. The AFC is just different. The bottom isn't as low and the top is a lot higher, in my opinion, than the NFC. So it made this whole ranking discussion kind of difficult for me on the AFC side.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It was a lot harder. Like you get to 8 and you're having to rank somebody that's really pretty good, you know.
Hmm.
So it was tough. I have Gino at 13.
Okay.
So a little bit higher than you. Obviously he was terrible last season. But the
Bad
Raiders also were dead last in PFF grade. And like I said when I talked about Fernando and Kirk, they allowed the most
for
sacks.
weapons.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry.
for sure that didn't help. But so the Jets were 22nd in the NFL according to PFF for offensive line grade, which isn't amazing, but it's significantly better than the Raiders were. And I maybe I'm just going mad because I always feel like I like the Jets roster. I mean, you mentioned bringing in Omar Cooper. I kind of like Adonai as a 3. I
Yeah.
didn't love him coming out of the draft because people were pairing him as like a 1 or a 2, and I didn't love that. But as a 3 for Garrett and Omar and Adonai, that's cool. They bring in Sadiq, who I think can be huge for
Yeah.
a guy like Gino. And then Brees Hall, I think, is tasty out of the backfield. Even Mason Taylor provides a lot for Gino to work with. So to me, if this O-line improves a lot at all, which I do love their two tackles, Olu Fasano and Armand Mimbu. Mimbu
Hmm.
being in his second year, like I could see that offensive line not being great, but being like 18, 16 in that area. If they could, I think Gino's like a low cost mid upside guy, which is why I had
Right.
him at 13. Obviously not that much higher. I don't think he's gonna be great, but in 2024, he was averaging 16 and a half points per game with the
Yep.
Seahawks. Obviously, way better team, but he was only averaging like just under 13 last year. So if he can even get to 15, 16 again, then that's like serviceable for deeper super flex leagues. And that's kind of where I have him slotted.
Yeah, and if you look, I mean, it wasn't like efficiency wise that it was
Mhm.
that much better. It's really just attempts and
Yeah.
completions. The touchdown numbers were pretty in line. He just needs to, be asked to do more than he was last year. And yeah, we've already talked about the Raiders, receiving core. So he gets a big bump. I think, yeah, I probably was down on him a little more than I needed to be. This is just tough, man. It's
Yeah.
tough.
No, it's tough. It's
So.
certainly tough.
I'll stop saying how tough it is. All right.
No worries. So for 14, and this hurt my little Green Bay heart a little bit, but I got Aaron Rodgers slided in at 14. I was really hoping that we could see one last great season from Rodgers. I've been doing that for like 3 years now. I guess I'm done. I'd love to see it still. But I'm done waiting on it or like expecting it kind of. I feel like that was always in the back of my mind. He was the QB 28 in points for per game last season, which is just pretty bad. And he played the whole year. And I personally don't think the Steelers did enough to like change that. Like you bring in a guy, you bring in Michael Pittman, you bring in Jeremy Bernard. Okay, like that's all right. That's definitely better in terms of the wide receiver two position for the Steelers last year, like significantly better. But they're both just kind of guys, or at least right now. Who knows what Bernard will turn into? But Pittman's on the twilight of his career and was never like a game breaker anyway. But maybe that's what Rodgers needs, just somebody to catch the ball. But Mike McCarthy, he has proven that he can run an NFL passing offense certainly better than Arthur Smith. And so maybe they're going to throw the ball more, but is that going to fix Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball away because the offensive line wasn't holding up? They were better than expected last season, but I kind of feel like those numbers were a little inflated because of how often Rodgers threw the ball away. He's done that for his whole career, and it seems like it's getting worse as he gets older. So I just don't know that McCarthy can fix those issues this year. I do think like who knows, like maybe Rodgers could be a middling QB this year and improve from where he was last year. But like it just doesn't none of it gets me excited. Like nothing about the Steelers operation this year gets me excited. At least last year it was like the new shiny, okay, let's see if Rodgers can do it here, and we were all aboard the Roman Wilson train thinking that he would be unlocked and that didn't happen and
Yeah.
I don't know. I just can't see it and I struggled putting him behind Gino, but I ultimately just had to go with my gut.
Yeah, I also have him at 14.
Okay. Cool.
Um I think honestly I thought this was low because I guess I'm not as out on Pittman and
Yeah.
Metcalf as other folks are. I thought that was mostly a function of like the Tomlin coaching and play calling type system. I think if you get McCarthy in here and Rodgers and you're pushing and moving the offense and scoring points, that's all you need to catapult this group. Like if they start firing on all cylinders between Pittman and Metcalf and Bernard, I think you were looking at possibly like a top five wide receiver group if they can
Oh,
show
damn.
out.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I think I've got a lot of faith in Pittman. I thought he got dealt pretty dirty there, as far as Indianapolis cutting bait on him. Pittman, DK Metcalf has always been like on the edge of elite. He's never, I mean, he had some good seasons, but he's never been like a perennial alpha type guy. But he offers something, physicality and kind of some playmaking. Those two big body guys, if they just get them rolling and just like knocking guys down
Yeah.
and hit the end zone, I don't know. Like, I don't know what you're going to do to stop this team if they can figure out the run game on top of that. So, Dualdo in there. I'm never going to say his name correctly, but
Dowdle.
I don't know. Dualdo. I I don't know. I'm excited about the Steelers. I don't know if I'm cheering for him or betting on him, but I'm definitely excited to watch him.
Okay,
So for them.
fair enough.
They feel like they could surprise. Like the team I have at 13, I could see doing much worse
Gotcha.
than the team I have at 14, which is kind of hard for me. Um,
I see.
that's it's
Well,
tough, man.
on that note, so we
You
both had
let know.
Rodgers at 14. I had Geno at 13. So
Right.
who did you slot in at 13?
I put Daniel Jones
Okay.
in there at 13. Don't tell me you have him at 4.
No.
Okay. All right. We're not doing that again. All right. Because yeah. Woo. But it kind of is a follow-up to what I was just saying. I really thought Pittman was important to this team
Uh-huh.
and to ask Alex Pierce to ask Alec Pierce to be a number one. I think is a bold statement. I've kind of talked about how I
Hmm.
like Josh Downs more. Obviously, we saw some great stuff out of Tyler Warren and Jonathan Taylor is kick ass, but um, I think that people are excited about what Jones did to start the year, and maybe they're not focused on the sustainability and how things kind of just fell off before he was unable to get out there and play. So
Yeah.
for me, it's a lot of that. It's hey, I get it, let Pittman go, but like we got to get something better to back this up. There's no reinforcements. You're going to be asking a lot of Tyler Warren, and I think he'll have a great year, but I don't think that the Daniel Jones necessarily going to be able to put up the kind of numbers he needs to be super relevant.
Yeah, Indiana Jones here. I hear you. I have him at 11. So
Okay,
I have him one step
that's two
above.
spots. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing crazy. Or wait, you had him at 13 or you had him at 12?
I
You
had
had
him
him at
at
12.
13.
Oh, yep, that makes sense. So two spots ahead.
Sorry.
Um, I think the massive grain of salt here for me, I actually had them originally in the bottom three with the QB clubs I didn't know what was going to happen with. But then everything I was researching says they kind of expect him to be back week one.
Right.
Um, so you're right. He was the QB 12 in points per game last season. He did fall off like you're talking about. But if you look at the weeks he fell off, weeks 9 to 13, he was still QB 16, which isn't terrible. It's not great, but it's not
Right.
bad. And he also got hurt before he got hurt and taken out. You know what I mean? Like he
Sure.
was playing on an injury. So I give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. The Colts ranked second in offensive line play according to PFF. Only
Yep.
lost Braden Smith, which is a big loss to be fair, but it's not unmanageable. And so they lose Pittman, and again, you're higher on Pittman than I am, but it is concerning. It's more concerning that they didn't draft anybody. That's where
Right.
I was very confused. Um, I don't think Jones will be like he was towards the beginning of last season, but could he be middle of the road? And then like if that team is still good, which I kind of expect them to be at least like competing for a playoff spot. I could see it. He needs those rushing touchdowns though. He had five last season through those weeks, so like he does need
Yeah.
those to help him out. So I think the variance on all Indiana Jones is huge, especially coming off the type of injury he had. So
Right.
I could see him finishing at the bottom or not finishing the season at all. But I don't know. There was just enough there that I liked. Like I'm with you. I like Josh Downs. I don't think Alec Pierce is a one. Never did. Said that a bunch of the times on the podcast. But I do like him still. And if they don't like, they still don't expect him to do too much and kind of lean on Warren in the running game. I think he could put up some reasonably okay weeks for you. He's not going to change the world or anything, but I think he can manage.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think this is going to be more of a ground team, and it's going to be a good year for that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So I will move on to my number 12 spot.
Okay.
And man, I hated that I couldn't put Malik Willis any higher than this. I just couldn't do it. As much as I loved watching him as the Jordan Love replacement the past few years. His games with Green Bay, 12.24. were his latest game, 31 and a half, the game before that, 12.98. That was after 2 weeks of being on the Green Bay Packers, and then 25.38 were his scores with the Packers. Like, that's awesome. But the caveats are, okay, that was with an offensive-minded Matt LaFleur, who's an underrated QB whisperer. I mean, everyone thought Jordan Love was going to suck. He doesn't. And then everyone thought Malik Willis coming there was wasted. It wasn't. And that's all down to Matt LaFleur cooking up the offense for these guys. And, their own individual work and whatever. But I feel like he doesn't get slotted in with the Kevin O'Connells of the world. And I feel like he kind of at least should be in the conversation. But anyway, Green Bay bias aside. But now he heads down to Miami with like one of the worst offensive squads I think I've ever seen around him. You got Bobby Slowick coordinating the offense, which I know a few years ago he was like head coaching candidate or whatever, but that never came to fruition. You throw him behind the 29th ranked offensive line. The only major change is they drafted Caden Proctor, who was a big like boomer bust question mark first round pick for a lot of people, and the Dolphins go out and get him. He may be great, who knows? But that's a little bit questionable, especially because that line wasn't very good, and he seems like he needs time to develop, and so that could lead to some stuff. And then you're lining him up with wide receivers named Jalen Tolbert, Tutu Atwell, Malik Washington. We love that. And then Chris Bell, Caleb Douglas, Kevin Coleman, and Greg Dulcich, which is big yikes. Like Chris Bell, another potentially awesome guy, but also like a bit of a project guy in my eyes. And then the other two are like dart throws. I mean, all young. They're gonna want to see these guys, so I'm excited for their dynasty rookie value to like move around and see how they go. But it's rough. And then A-Chan out of the backfield is nice, but like I feel like everyone's just gonna focus in on that and make Malik beat you. And maybe he can, without LaFleur and without the Green Bay wide receivers going out there. And he does have the rushing game. He has that rushing upside. So
Yes.
he's a guy that I think could jump above a few of these guys that I put in front of him. But I'm worried, man. I just think he's getting kind of set up for failure right now, and we need to see him take over that offense and be the guy. And for a guy that's played 4 full games, well, I just couldn't buy into it yet.
Yes, I'm with you. I had Watson at 12. Malik is at 11 for me, so I'm
Okay.
right there with you. And it's really the absence of a body of work.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can point to and say this is who he is as a player.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, he had some great pop games, mostly off the rushing work. And that's nice because he's got HN in there. So he has a balance there. They can make that dynamic enough with the two of them to keep him utilized in that way. But yeah, receiving core doesn't exist. There's nothing dynamic about the passing game coming out here. So it's a building year.
Hmm.
It's probably a great place to buy early on him.
Hmm.
Maybe like midway through the season because there's too much buzz at the moment
Hmm.
for me to get too excited about him. But if you look at the contract, it's 3 years, 67.5 million. That's the lowest non-rookie contract going on for a starting quarterback outside of Rodgers, which is a tie. And then I guess if you count Kirk Cousins as a starter, that's less. But you're looking at half the money that Daniel Jones is making, right? Which
Hmm.
is a weird comparison because I
Yeah.
have them pretty close in my rankings here.
Hmm.
So it's a projection for the future. And I think that's what Malik Willis is. We're going to find out a little bit about him this year, but I
Hmm.
don't think we're going to find out a lot about him until next year. And it's just
Yeah.
because he's got nobody playing
Yeah.
the passing game with him. So
I just see a situation where if it goes completely off the rails sideways, they pivot because like the contract isn't that crazy, and if they end
sure.
up with like the 1 or 2 overall pick, which is certainly in the realm of possibility, maybe they go after a quarterback and then he's tanked. But he's a huge lottery ticket. I mean, I bid on him and picked him up on waivers at the end of the year twice
Nice.
last year just to, see where he went, see what's going to happen. Didn't love the Miami landing spot, but we'll see. I hope he does well, but I just can't rank him any higher than this. So who was your 12 was
It was the Browns.
the Browns.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Sean.
we kind of did that. So I did my 11 and you
Hmm.
had Malik at 11.
Correct. That's
Okay,
right.
so we're on to 10. So
Okay.
I will take 10. I got Cam Ward. Sitting at
Same.
10. Same. Okay,
Yep.
perfect. He was the QB 41 last year in points per game, with 11.1, which is rough.
Yep.
However, if you look at after the bye, for the Titans, he did jump to the QB 24 and had 14.3 points per game. Still not great, but that's promising to see, you know. That's you want to see uh momentum gaining in your rookie year. So it's a little, and that was with old man Calvin Ridley as his number one, Alec Ironmaner as a two, Chimere DK coming out, and the 23rd ranked offensive line. I really like what the Titans did this offseason. I mean, I think they could do for the more for the offensive line, but bringing in Wan'Dale Robinson, a consistent presence over the middle of the field that he can just dump the ball to. Bringing in Carnell Tate is huge. I think that's going to be awesome for him. You know, they did add to the offensive line, but it was kind of like fairly mad guys they added. But I really do enjoy or I like the idea of the two wide receivers they brought in for him. And the more it sits on me, the more I like the Carnell Tate pick, to be honest. I
Yeah.
just think Cam Ward can really eat with that guy and kind of just throw it up to him. I mean, that was a guy that was like made his bread in college doing these jump balls and contested catches, and Ward can get him that. I think this is the first step in seeing who Cam Ward is and if he's NFL material, and I think he is going to improve a little bit this year.
Yeah, I mean, we forget about how good Cam Ward was in Miami. Like he was electric and he went to yeah, a bit of a dumpster fire last year in the Titans, and my notes read exactly like, yeah, Wandell, yes, and Tate like couldn't have been better. And then for Wandell to have the OC connection with Dable or with Brian Dable coming in, I think that there's a lot. There's already a lot going on in the mind of this offense that didn't exist last year.
Hmm.
There's going to be some good. I feel like it's not going to feel like a first year
Yeah.
coaching change. I think there's going to be some good packages and a system with some consistency that Cam Ward can just grow into. So yeah, I'm actually I'm probably more excited than I should be about him.
I feel that.
And I guess yeah, we're just waiting for week one. What are we going to do to get
Yeah.
there?
Let us see. All right, so we both have him at 10. Who do you got at number 9?
I've got Stroud at
Yeah,
9.
me too. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and it's strange because it feels like he should be doing better than he is, but he
Uh-huh.
hasn't had really much to speak of. That rookie year was his best year is a little shortened, and he was a QB 11, and that year, last year, shortened again at 21. And so we need him to just be healthy and on the
Yeah.
field and like maybe figure out how to score some rushing touchdowns or like do something because he has a little bit of flash to him as a rusher, but he doesn't really lean into it. And I think it's holding him back in the fantasy world as far as what he needs to succeed. He got some support on the offensive line, which is
Yeah.
going to be huge.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it comes down to Tank Dell, man.
Hmm.
I think if Tank Dell can be healthy, that this offense in general is going to be a lot more successful. We saw the dynamic play making and the connection they could have when they were healthy. But I think if we have Higgins taking a step forward and Dell on the field, we're going to end up with a pretty nice looking offense,
Yeah.
moving the ball pretty good, and that's what he needs to level up. That plus some rushing help, which adding David Montgomery will help maybe balance out the rushing game that's hasn't existed in on this team since like David Johnson. So
Hmm.
yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I'm with you. It's nice to see the Texans actually invest in the offensive line. I mean, I know they did like some things here or there, but they bring in three guys, one through the draft and two through free agency. We'll see how it works, but it's good that like they actually went for it. They were ranked 27th per PFF last season, which continues their trend of placing near the bottom in this category, which
Right.
can't help Stroud. I feel like it's messed up his confidence, it's messed up his rhythm. He just feels more panicky lately when you watch him. So hopefully this will help. And I'm with you. You know, Nico and Jaden, that's a good one too. And then yeah, if Tank Dell comes back, but also I like Jalen Noel to
Yes.
kind of play that role if Tank Dell either comes back and gets hurt or isn't the same guy. So I think he has the weapons to do it. So hopefully he can improve. I mean, yeah, that QB 11 season, everyone was hot in the pants for old CJ Stroud, and then he followed it up with
No.
a QB 18 and a QB 21.
Pooped the
And he
diaper.
and so we want to see him get back to where he was, especially with how good the rest of the Texans team is.
Yeah.
Kind of a make or break it here for him. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see what he does with it. So at my eight, I've got Bo Nix sitting at eight. He really just gets dinged because the rest of the AFC to me is so jacked. You know, it's hard. There weren't any names that I felt good about putting in front of him or putting behind him just yet. But obviously, and that anybody that's listens know to this podcast knows that I was not a Bo Nix guy coming out of
Yeah.
college.
But you love Sean Payton.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's my favorite. But he was great last season. Both of them were great last season. It's hard to argue with production. 18.6 point per game for Bo Nix, and then you bring in Jalen Waddle. So that should be
Seriously.
a huge boost to his productivity, a tremendous upgrade for him. We'll see without Sean Payton calling plays now. Kind of a weird wrinkle that happened this offseason. So we'll see how that goes. But really, it's not. I really don't want this to seem like I'm hating on Bo Nix. It's just, I mean, look at the rest of the guys that are in front of him. It's hard. It's hard for me to really justify putting him in front of anybody.
Yeah, well, Bo Nix hating is not going to get you very far around here, pal. But no, I couldn't agree more. I have him at seven, so just one spot. I only found one guy that you could tuck in behind him, I guess, and I'll talk about him here in a second. But yeah, you nailed it. Adding Waddle into an otherwise unchanged offense from what I can tell, just means that they're gonna keep it rolling. A healthy Knicks would have been a Super Bowl quarterback.
Hmm.
So that's a pretty big step considering it's a second year and that's back-to-back top 10 fantasy seasons, back-to-back quarterback seven. So, it is kind of feels like it's weird. But if things go right for the rest of the guys in the AFC, this is where he'll end up. But
Yeah.
I don't see there's any more, I don't see any more levels in his game.
Yeah.
But just consistent productivity and recovering for that injury will put him right back
Hmm.
where he has been the whole time. So good for
Yeah, for sure.
him.
Yeah.
My eight was I had Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. So I have Lawrence at seven. So that
Okay.
that was the closest of guys that I could have put behind Knicks for sure.
Yeah, and for the Jags, it's just kind of weird for me. I could see Lawrence doing much worse
Hmm.
than this. And I think mostly, and you can correct me if you want to, if you feel the need, but the loss of Trevor Etienne
Mm.
is and the void that creates in the run game, I think it's going to have a pretty severe impact in the balance of this offense,
Yeah.
and and that impact needs to be absorbed by Brian Thomas getting back to his rookie form,
Hmm.
by the involvement of Travis Hunter as an offensive weapon. These are the kind of things that are going to be necessary for this team to kind of bounce back and balance into absorbing the impact of that loss. And I don't necessarily think it's going to be a day one thing. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence makes up a lot of his fantasy upside on the ground.
Hmm.
He had 9 rushing touchdowns last year. which is a career high. Honestly, in the 4 years prior, he was at 14 total. So to go from 14 and 4 to 9 in the
It's pretty
last,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, that's going to be something that we can't really count on. But then again, like he also had career high in passing touchdowns too. So there is an amount of upside to the way he presents his game. But asking for it to hit on all cylinders and for this receiving core to support him is it's kind of a big ask. It's not clear that that's a possibility at this time.
Yeah, I feel you. I would not be surprised if these guys got switched by the end of the year. But for me, looking at it, he was averaging 20.6 points per game last year, which was better than Dak Prescott. That was better than Caleb Williams. That's better than Bo Nix. It's better than Jared Goff. Now they roll into 2026 and they have the 11th easiest schedule on paper. That may not matter much towards the end of the year, but right now it looks kind of juicy. And his team didn't really change. They have Brian Thomas. Everyone's hoping he'll be back. Parker Washington was good for him, and he had like an unreal connection with Jacoby Myers, and that was all second half of the year. So maybe one off season full of that, like maybe they bring him in. And I hear you on the rushing game with Travis Achan or
What?
Etienne.
Who?
But it's weird because it's like them not bringing in a great RB lends more to passing for Lawrence to me.
Right.
Tootin also may come out. I know a lot of people are excited about Bashal Tootin, so maybe they don't lose as much as we're thinking. For some reason, I can't buy them as hard, but I don't know. It felt a little bit like finally the Trevor Lawrence coming out party, and I'm just gonna ride that wave at least to keep him ahead of Bo Nix for now.
I've just seen him rise and fall before, and so
Yeah,
it's hard
that's
to
fair.
trust it to be sustained. But
That's fair.
give me all the Parker Washington you got, man. That's
Fair enough.
awesome.
All right, so that was my seven. So who you got slotting at seven?
I have Bo Nix.
Oh, that's right. We flipped him. Duh. So six, I've got Mr. Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes at six.
Ooh,
Um, yeah, the
that's
Chiefs are
fine.
are saying that he is hopeful for a season opener return, which would be crazy to me because he was hurt the same week as Micah Parsons. And Micah Parsons is saying he'll be back in mid-October potentially. Now, I know the Packers have different rules on ACL tears and they're different positions, yada yada yada. But let's say worst case, he's back within the first 3 weeks. That's obviously plenty of time for him to end up as the QB 10 again. He was really good last year, tied with Matthew Stafford and Drake May in points per game at 21.1. But he's been the QB 11 in back-to-back seasons. Obviously, he played a full season last year. He was the QB 2 by the end of week 15 when he got hurt. So like if he continued that trajectory, obviously he would blow us out of the water. My thing is he's coming off an ACL. They just invested more money into him, which obviously they should have. And then they invested money into Kenneth Walker to get the rushing game back. I think they just want to take a little bit of that load off Mahomes. And I think Mahomes will be great, but again, the AFC is just so stacked, and I believe in the upside of some of these other guys just slightly more than Mahomes right now, the five guys I have in front of him. Because you got another year on Kelsey, and who knows what the hell's going on with Rasheed Rice trying to recover from surgery in a prison. And then,
Hmm.
Xavier Worthy hasn't super panned out, and they didn't do much to really sway me for it. It seems like they're gearing for a more balanced attack than what they were doing last year with Mahomes, and that was also they were losing a lot more often last year, so they were throwing more. So to me, I just think it'll be a little bit down to the pack. I still think I see him as a top 10 QB. I just see the five guys in front of him also as top 10 QBs.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. For Mahomes, I have him at 4, and
Okay.
it is like that recovery timeline and the ability to play week one,
Hmm.
full powered. That's gonna be, necessary for him to actually meet that level. You mentioned the run game, and I think that is what he's been missing, like the presence of a run game
Yeah,
earlier in
that's
his
fair.
career. was
Helped.
what,
Mhm.
yeah, it gave him the ability. He gave him, time in the pocket, versatility and play calling and the ability to push the ball downfield. I think he gets that back to a degree, and I think Eric Bieniemy being back on this
Yeah.
in the offensive coordinator position, it's like the silent factor that just it seemed like a multiplier for this team that was instantly, noticed in its absence. So I think that's probably what I'm excited about. But you're right, like the injury recovery
Yeah.
is up in the air, and the the off-season prep behind bars for one of your leading playmakers is definitely
A concern.
iffy. Yeah, not to mention the like obviously he could just be right back in prison at any
Yeah.
time or
Yeah,
whatever
for sure.
because of the way he lives his life.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No.
I had Drake May at number
Oh,
six.
okay. Oh, all right. All right. All right.
Yeah, I know, right? And it feels I'm just high on the top five guys. Like this
Mm,
next, the top, well, counting Mahomes, right?
yeah.
But the other four of my top five make it difficult. And I think we all know with the Patriots that like this is crazy, right? Add Romeo Dobbs, and then you also
Hmm.
add AJ Brown with the Vrabel reuniting. And I think it's going to be hard, I think, for Drake May to sustain the success he had
Yeah.
and the efficiency, the limited turnovers and the ability to keep the ball moving on the ground, like he was doing some superhero stuff. There's a chance for this offense to continue to improve, but I do think there's a chance for him to kind of regress coming into
Yeah.
this year, and so that he's at six. It's not like I'm down on him or anything, but I do have him outside looking in on this top five.
So I have him right at five. So
Okay.
just ahead of you. I know a lot of people have him like way higher up. Maybe I just make new QBs earn their spot over old vets too much. But if we look at the playoffs, it was terrible for Drake May. I mean, he was constantly pressured. His completion percentage dropped from 72% to 58%. His yards per attempt went from 8.9 to 6.9. He threw 8 picks during the entire regular season, and he threw four in the playoffs with a first round bye.
Ouch.
The historically easy schedule inflated his numbers a bit, despite him still playing tremendously and having an awesome year. Now they have the sixth hardest schedule, but they do bring it, like you said, they completely redid that wide receiver room. I love the AJ Brown addition, and Romeo Dobbs is a great wide receiver too, better than most of what he had last year. Stephon Diggs was up and down, but obviously Diggs is kind of an animal in more ways than one. But Fantasy Pros, he had a 21.1 point per game average last year. Uh, is he going to improve that? Likely not. Can he match it? Potentially. I think so. He did have 103 rushing attempts with 450 yards, but he only scored 4 touchdowns. So like if that number goes up, even if the yardage goes down, I don't know. It could be a situation where like the team overall is better, but he scores slightly fewer fantasy points. Because I mean, he ended up what is like the QB 2 or 3 last year, after it was all said and done. Yeah, he was the QB
Two.
two.
Yeah.
So like I don't think he'll be QB two, but could he still be in the top 10 and then like the top five of the AFC? Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's going to be spicy. I just, these top five have been in and out, just rocking. So, well,
Yeah,
with
that's
me
fair.
having Mahomes in there. So,
Yeah, that's
um,
fair.
to
So who
speak
do
of
you have
five,
at five? Yeah.
yeah, I've got Herbert right there.
Okay.
And so what do you got, Herbert number one? No, I'm just joking.
No.
I know there's no possible way, right? And I want him to be, number one or whatever, but he's coming off the QB 10 year,
Hmm.
and that's the best he's done since his second year. He's got Harbaugh, and I think there's some optimism for this team. I think Trey Harris could probably take a big step in the
Yeah.
right direction. And if you get Hampton a full year of health, there's a lot to be optimistic about. But I kind of feel like what they're doing is working.
Hmm.
Um, so a little bit of help on the interior offensive line is going to probably lend itself more to the run game than the pass game, but it's not going to hurt, obviously. So For me, I just don't see much changing on this offense, and I don't see a reliance on the passing game increasing. So it's hard for me to see the stats going up in
Yeah.
this situation. And he wasn't much of a scoring quarterback on the ground, even though he was definitely putting up some good yardage, almost hit 500 total last year.
Yeah. His previous career high was 306, so he
Right.
was running a lot. I have him at four.
Okay.
Mr. Herbert, he was still managing 18.7 points per game despite the offensive line being dismantled and him falling off towards the end of the year. The Chargers are definitely relying heavily on their two tackles coming back and being healthy,
Sure.
because they went after the middle of the line to improve that. Cole Strange is brought in, Tyler Biadasz, the center from Washington, is brought in, and then Jake Slaughter, a second round left guard. So they did go after that to try and help him out. But I mean, give me Mike McDaniel with Justin Herbert all the time. I mean, he brought Tua to a QB9 season of all people. Like, what can you do with Justin Herbert? I think a lot. I love that pairing. I love McConkey. I think the rushing game helps Justin Herbert. I loved Gadsden
Yeah.
until Silly and Joku got brought in. So we'll see how that goes. But I just think we could see a return to the early season or the early career Herbert, with maybe not even like higher numbers passing wise in terms of attempts, but like more efficient and like really deep shots down the field with which Mike McDaniel likes to do. So I like Herbert. I've always liked Herbert, so I got him at four.
Yep. I'm with you on that. Let's see. Sorry,
So that was your five, and you had Mahomes at four, yeah?
yep. I was gonna say, yeah,
Okay.
I'm reading and writing and clicking and clacking over here.
So I've got Joe Burrow at QB3.
Three.
Um,
Gotcha.
am I a fool for believing that he can stay healthy ever? Maybe. But his fantasy finishes when he's finished a full season are seven, fourth, and third. Like he made sure his weapons didn't leave. Um, it is annoying that the Bengals are running back the 28th ranked offensive line. That's certainly a choice behind a guy that can't stay healthy. They need to fix that. I know you needed help on defense, but trading your first for albeit one of the best defensive linemen in the league, fine. That I don't hate that. But spending your second and third before taking an offensive lineman is a little worrying to me. But it's pretty simple. If Burrow's healthy, he's in the top three of this list. If not, the Bengals suck again.
Yep, and that's it. I mean, you can't take anything away from a healthy Burrow. You could definitely add some stuff to him in
Yeah.
the way of protection, but you can't add anything in the way of weapons, and you can't have it all, right? Like it's a balance. They've obviously chose firepower over, fortress walls or whatever you want to say. But
Mhm.
yeah, when he's healthy, he's gonna be kicking all the ass, and there's literally nothing you can say about Cincinnati as far as, if they're hitting and he's up, he's going to be explosive. Obviously, Chase and Higgins are unstoppable when they got the right guy throwing them the ball. So that's why I
Yeah.
have him at number two
Okay.
on my list, which is probably a swap with you on Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson, I assume.
Yep.
And for me, Lamar, I don't really like being down on the guy really, but it's tough. He's missed time here and there. He's got good stretches of being unhealthy, but his big quarterback 1 year in 2024 was really supported by a 41 passing touchdown
Mhm.
season. And there's just not really in the realm of possibilities. It felt like a fluke. It looks like a fluke. I'm not quite sure if they've done anything necessarily to make it consistent. Obviously, they add Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt in the third and fourth round of the draft. They get some interior offensive line new faces. They lose out on their long-term center, and that's going to cause some ripples. So
Yeah.
counting on, Rashad Bateman to be number two behind Flowers again, losing, Isaiah Likely. There's just a level of mystery here. Plus, we're coming off, it's been, 3 years since he had 5 rushing touchdowns. And, I know he's still getting up there well over 700 yards pretty much every year leading up until last year. But I gotta wonder, where we're really going with this and
Yeah.
how much the Tyler Lindenbaum absence is going to impact his overall efficiency and just prowess as under center.
Yeah, I could see that. I do think replacing center is like the easiest one on the offensive line to replace, being a know nothing idiot about football. So like maybe I'm completely wrong, but that just feels like the one place that like if you needed to makeshift it for a year or two, you could probably do it. Because Lamar, you're right. He came off the worst QB finish of his career since his second year. He missed 4 games, but he was dealing with injuries like basically all year. It was clearly affecting his play style and like his ability to run and want to run for a while. He had the lowest rushing attempts, yards, and touchdowns of his entire career, including his rookie season where he didn't even start the whole season. I just don't think that happens again if he's healthy. And I like the addition of Declan Doyle as the new offensive coordinator. If you don't know who
Sure.
that is, he was drawing up plays for the Bears last season, not calling plays, but drawing them up under Ben Johnson. He's the same age as Lamar Jackson. I just like bringing in some younger juice to Lamar. Like he's been tied to John Harbaugh for so long, and the offense hasn't really changed. The team hasn't really changed. And, obviously I'm worried about losing Linderbaum, like you said, but I don't think it's like crazy. And then they brought in both guards, one through the draft, one through free agency, and then replaced their center. So I just feel like, and with the additions to the wide receiver room, I think either Lane or Surratt is going to take over for Walker at some point. And I still like Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
Maybe like not as like a true one, but a guy that Lamar has some uh, uh, repertoire with. So I just think a reinvigorated Ravens team could just mean another stellar season for the two-time MVP. Like, and I just, I think the rushing ability is still there. He was just gimping around for half the year.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue. These top three are, I mean,
Oh yeah, these
we
are
kind of know
they're like
number one is
interchangeable.
feels
Yeah.
locked in for sure, but
Oh, easiest one of the whole exercise.
yep.
In fact, we'll just talk about it. It's Josh Allen, and there's not much to say about Josh Allen because since 2020, his QB finishes are
Number
1,
one.
1, 2, 1, 2, and 1. So, yeah, if you're going to
Well,
project anybody to be one, it's got to be Josh Allen.
yeah, and I wouldn't shrug at the additions of DJ Moore
Yeah.
and then Skylar Bell
Yeah.
after the kind of the, make it work situations that he's been through since the Stephon years, which definitely impacted his yardage totals. So the possibility of having a Stephon 2.0 type situation while sustaining, double-digit rushing touchdowns, it's insane. I don't
Yeah.
even know. Josh Allen, he's a monster. So that's
Absolutely.
fantasy cheat code level stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely sad. I
Konami's.
don't have him anywhere. But
I
yeah, there you have it. I know you got to get out here, make a
I do. I
baseball
am getting
game.
weird.
So we will get out of here. There's your rankings of our AFC quarterbacks. Until next time, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Have a good one, y'all.
Long as I don't become a sad surfer guy.